Welcome. Thank you for joining us for our program. My name is Helen Liu, and I'm the Programming and Partnerships Manager at Cary Library. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank the Cary Library Foundation. Their support enables us to bring programs like today's event to you. I'd also like to thank the public libraries in Ashland, Bedford, Beverly, Groton, Maynard, Needham, Tewksbury, and the Peabody Institute Library in Danvers for partnering with us on this program. Today, Jennifer He will talk about Guardians of Truth, combating AI deepfakes. This program is being recorded and will be posted to the library's YouTube channel. If you have any questions, please submit them to the Q&A or chat, and Jennifer will answer them at the end of the program. Last year, Jennifer presented 2 programs for Ashland Public Library on the topic of unleashing your potential with AI technology, igniting productivity, creativity, and wellness, part 1 and 2. You can view recordings of these programs on our YouTube channel, which is linked directly to the Ashland Public Library recordings. The Cary Library series with Jennifer takes a deeper dive into these tools. You can view these recordings of previous programs in this AI series on our YouTube channel. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker. Jennifer He is a visionary tech entrepreneur known for her expertise in web design and development, particularly in the nonprofits, libraries, education, arts, and higher education industries. She's the founder of WebGlow AI. Jennifer's inspirational leadership propels the company's mission to empower diverse communities, encouraging them to pursue greater technological achievements and create a lasting impact. Welcome back, Jennifer.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to thank Cary Public Library for letting me talk today about deep fakes, and also thank Helen for helping me design these AI talks. I'm so excited that we're wrapping it up today with deep fakes. This topic is really exciting, and I've learned so much, and so I'm just really excited to get into this today. Just a little bit more about myself. I have 15 years of experience working as a web designer and UX specialist for higher eds, libraries, art institutions, and nonprofits. I have experience teaching tech classes to both students and librarians. And I founded WebGlow AI, which is a company where we teach students how to improve their lives and work using AI tools. And we also offer a suite of web design services. So welcome. I wanted to open this up by talking about how AI is changing our perception of reality, but particularly how our deep fakes changing our perception of reality. So first of all, in case you're not aware of what a deep fake is, just, as a sort of a general understanding here, when we talk about deep fakes, we're talking about images, video, audio that AI has basically used an algorithm to create something that's actually fake, but it looks real. And so right here I have a image, sorry, a video recording of Morgan Freeman, and he's talking, and it's actually a deep fake that's been created of Morgan Freeman. And so it's not real, but it looks really real. Right here, like below that video, you can see a picture of Pope Francis wearing like a puffer jacket, but this is created with AI, and so he never actually wore a puffer jacket, although the image looks really real. Um, we know that deep fakes can contribute to the spread of misinformation. There's other negative impacts, such as it could erode trust in media, could manipulate public opinion, and even affect election results, could undermine brands, it could impersonate leaders, financial officers, compromise vital data and systems. And then we're going to spend a lot of time talking about this, particularly how to combat this last issue, but there is a potential for AI fakes to scam businesses or individuals. And there's, news about this. There's an example where there was a fake audio that was created of a CEO making a business deal, and that was indeed fake. And so we're going to talk more about these issues and kind of explore different ways to combat these issues. So our basic agenda here is we're going to do an introduction to AI deepfakes. We're going to open it up with a fun quiz. Then we're going to talk more about the technology. We're going to give some examples of deepfakes, some use cases. We're going to talk about even how deepfake technology can be used for good. Then we're going to talk about four main strategies to combat AI deepfakes. And the four main ways that we're going to talk about today are detection, transparency, regulation, education. Then we have some interesting resources if you want to learn more about deepfakes. Then, of course, we're going to open it up with Q&A, which is always, one of the most exciting parts of the presentation because I get to answer, all of your questions. So our introduction is going to include definition, and then we're going to do like a really fun sort of truth or myth like quiz so that I can, test your knowledge of deepfakes, and feel free to put your answers in the chat. So a basic definition, deepfake, and just so everyone's aware, deepfake are, two words that have been sort of put together and is actually considered a noun. So this deepfake AI is a type of artificial intelligence used to create convincing images, audio, and video hoaxes. The term describes both the technology and the resulting bogus content. Deepfakes often transform existing source content where one person is swapped for another. And we're going to see that as we describe more what the technology is. So basically what's going on here is we have somebody that is a real person, and but we could also start off with somebody who is real, but we're actually going to put them into somebody else, and we're sort of creating like a fake person with like inserting that content. So some examples of this is there's a popular AI deepfake video of Taylor Swift where she's talking and it's not Taylor Swift, it's somebody else talking, but you think it's really Taylor Swift. We're also seeing more fake AI images and video content on news articles, and we see a lot with like presidents and political figures, and we're going to talk more about those examples. So now we're going to open up the quiz part. Feel free to put your answers like A, B, C, or D into the chat. So the first question is, where do you think you've seen AI deepfakes? So it could be movies, voice assistants like Amazon's Alexa, social media filters like Snapchat, or I don't think I've ever seen them before. So just gonna pause for a second. Let me see. People are putting C, A, B, C. Oh, fantastic. Thank you all so much for participating. So the answer are all are correct. But I think that when we say all, we mean like A through C. So it says deepfake technology has enabled important advances in artistic expression, filmmaking, education, accessibility, and even historical or forensic recreation. However, as we see, this technology can also be used to mislead, misinform, or cause harm. So next question, are all deepfake content malicious? Yes, no, or both? Feel free to put your answer in the chat. So some people are saying no, some people are saying both, some people are saying yes. Thank you so much for participating. All right, so all are correct, but if you really want to get specific on what the real answer is, yes, deepfake technology can cause harm, but some of it is more benign, and we're going to talk about some more benign examples. And I did want to give an example right off the bat of something that's more benign. There's a really cool deepfake video, but it's actually an installation in the Dali Museum in St. Petersburg in Florida. And it's basically they brought like Salvador Dali back to life, and he's talking. It's supposed to be educational. It's really cool. This actually reminds me a bit of animatronics. Um, and I could definitely see this happening more like museums and amusement parks and even in retail stores. And so it's really cool. But this, of course, is supposed to be educational. It's benign. It's not, there's nothing about it that's causing harm. So what forms can AI deepfakes take? Image, audio, video, or all of the above? So thank you all so much for participating. A lot of people are putting D, and everyone who's putting D, you are absolutely correct. This is a smart audience. All of the above. So it says, well, the most common type of deepfake content is video manipulations. The process can be found in many forms, including photos and audio files. And in my opinion, the audio files at this stage in the technology are extremely manipulative and convincing because it's really, really hard sometimes to pick out that it's actually a fake audio file. And so, Ken, we're going to talk more about that. All right, so these questions actually came from a deepfake, AI deepfake quiz. And so if you want to take the whole thing, you can. It's on a website called spotdeepfakes.com. And one reason I really love this is because they actually have challenges where they have images and video and they say, is this real? Is this not real? And you can kind of like test and you can practice trying to figure out how to detect whether a video or an image is a deepfake or not. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that too, but feel free to visit this quiz. So now we're going to do like a little bit more of a deeper dive into this technology and how it works. We're going to talk more about AI deepfakes. We're going to talk about cheap fakes. What are cheap fakes? Ethical issues, some more examples of deepfakes, some additional use cases, and then we're even going to talk about some positive uses of the technology. So what is an AI deepfake? So a deepfake, another term for it is called synthetic media. Like I said, the word is actually a noun, and it's called AI that deceives. Deepfake technology takes its name from deep learning, which is a form of AI. In deepfake AI, deep learning algorithms teach themselves how to solve problems with large data sets. They're used to swap faces and videos, images, or other content, making the fake appear real. That's like the strictest form of it. But we are also today talking about it in like a little bit of a um, kind of a wider scope where it's not just swapping faces, but it could also be, you know, impersonating somebody's voice. So let's say I make an audio where I sound like I'm a famous CEO or something. So we're talking about it in other ways too. But a really, really strict way of thinking about deepfakes is that we're actually using technology to do this kind of face swapping manipulation. So talking about a little bit more about how this actually works, it's actually created using two separate AI algorithms that sort of compete with one another. The first one is called a generator, and the generator is taking the fake digital content and it's actually creating like new content. Then it's taking that content and it's giving it over to what's called the discriminator. And the discriminator is putting that new content up against already existing content and it's judging whether or not it's real or artificial. Each time the discriminator correctly identifies the content as real or fake, it's sort of passing that information back over to the generator. And that's how it gets better and better and better over time. So this technology is actually called generative adversarial network. And so an example here is that for this first um, column of images that we see here, would be the first part. This would be the generating images of this man's face. And then it's going to be handed over to the discriminator, and the discriminator is comparing those faces up against other faces and then saying, oh, these don't, look human enough, or these look too artificial, this doesn't pass the test, or it's actually going to accept it and kind of like make it better and better over time. So then what are cheap fakes? There's something called cheap fakes or shallow fakes. These are digitally manipulated videos or image files. You could kind of almost think of this as like something that's been photoshopped or doctored. And sort of the irony of this is that not all media has to be as fantastic or as believable as a deep fake in order for it to be believed. So an example of this is there's a doctored video of Nancy Pelosi, and it's not a high quality. It was not created with AI, but it's still able to deceive people. And so it's important to sort of keep that in mind. Some other deepfake examples is there was a video that came out of President Obama. BuzzFeed actually created this video a couple of years ago, and they did it to educate the public and let them know how good deepfake technology has become, how convincing it is. And so this video has President Obama kind of saying things out of character. Like I already mentioned, there's a deepfake video of Taylor Swift. She's giving away cookware sets, but it's really not her giving away the sets, it's fake. There's another kind of interesting deepfake video for Back to the Future where they insert actors into Back to the Future that really weren't there, but it looks very, very real. And we're going to see more examples of deep fakes being used in Hollywood and in like entertainment. And then of course, deep fakes is becoming more of an issue in pornography, in that like celebrities or just innocent people, not that celebrities aren't innocent, but just anybody could be put into a porn video. So that's very, very concerning, and of course leads to ethical issues. So again, to talk a little bit more about the ethical issues, there's a huge issue here with misinformation, ways that we could use deep fakes to influence public opinion and kind of like put words into somebody's mouth that could influence an election. I mean, it has such wide you know, ranging implications here. I even just read an article about, could deepfake technology start a world war? And so this is a real issue. Consent is another issue. Users may not be given clear disclosure of technology's implications, and um, are users really consenting to have like their image put onto somebody else, or um, vice versa. There's privacy concerns. There's intellectual property concerns, of course, and I think there's some intellectual property concerns sort of with all AI content. And then there's harm. We realize that the deepfake technology can be really deceiving, and it could be used to sabotage or hurt individuals or corporations. There's lots of news examples of that, happening, unfortunately. And so luckily, later in the presentation, we'll talk about kind of like what the government's doing about that. But there's definitely ways that this can cause harm. So how is this made? How do we make an AI deepfake video? So although the technology is complicated itself to actually have the AI create the deepfake, it's at it's not that complicated anymore to create a deepfake video using the AI deepfake software. And I think it's really important for people to know that, because it's just becoming more and more accessible. There's more software that's open source, free, easy to use. Um, and then also there's a lot of free tutorials online. It could be on YouTube, it could be articles on Medium that actually explain how to make deepfake videos. And so the reason I say this is because I want people to realize how easy it is for somebody that doesn't have a lot of tech skill to actually create their own deepfake video, and how easy it is for people now to use this technology to scam. Although we are going to talk about ways that you could create a deepfake, more for entertainment purposes, more for like educational value. But I just want people to really be aware that just like the AI tools that I've showed in the past, how easily accessible they are. You can create AI images in seconds, and a lot of the tools out there are free and they're really easily accessible. It's the same thing with this deep fake technology. So I'm not trying to encourage people necessarily to make deepfakes. I just want people to be aware of what's going on here. There are some softwares that are available online right now where you can create this kind of face swapping video content. One is called Deep Face Lab 2.0. It's open source, which means it's free. And on the actual website, they have tutorials that walk you through how to create this type of stuff. There's another one called Face Swap. Deep Swap is another tool. It's very, very affordable. Face Swap again is another open source software. And then another one, which I thought was interesting, is called Deepfakes Web. This one is a little bit more expensive. It's sort of pay by the minute, but the way that they've designed it, it's like really user friendly. A lot of people could just jump on and like create a deepfakes video within like minutes. So it's kind of interesting to see um the landscape here. So I wanted to talk about kind of how deepfake technology is helping in like different industries, kind of making a difference and an impact. We know it's being used in movie production. Star Wars has used it, particularly to try to make actors and actresses look younger or older, like different stages. Marvel movies uses it a lot for like that de-aging. And then Fast and the Furious did something kind of interesting. Um, their main actor, Paul Walker, I believe, unfortunately passed away. And so they used deepfakes to create like an imitation of him. And so we're sort of seeing this more and more in movie production. Another thing that's interesting is that the creators of South Park are using deepfake technology to create a new satire called Sassy Justice, and you can actually find this on YouTube. And I think we're going to see a rise of this, not just from creators like of South Park, but even just, sort of like indie YouTubers or influencers. They sort of might like try their hand at this. So in this example, we can see like Donald Trump is, basically a news reporter. And so it's kind of interesting to see like how this is evolving. This I actually found to be very interesting. Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern decided to create a clone of herself using AI avatar. She made an avatar with uh, an AI tool that's out right now on the market. It's called Synthesia. She also did an AI generative voice clone of herself where she used a tool called 11 Labs. 11 Labs is really affordable and like very available to the public. Synthesia is a little bit more pricey. It's something that I think people with like higher budgets would use. But the interesting thing is she did all these challenges where I think she did like five different challenges, and she basically was cloning herself and seeing if she could pass in work related instances as like the fake clone of herself. And in some instances she passed and she actually duped her coworkers, and other instances she failed. But it's really interesting to think about this sort of world of being able to kind of replace yourself in a work-like environment, in both good and bad ways. So some other examples of how this deepfake technology can be used for like positive ways. It could do a lot for personalization. It could create personalized news broadcasts, virtual fitting rooms, and other kind of personalized digital experiences. It could be used in marketing as like avatars and presentations, video conferences, that kind of thing, metaverses. It can be used in healthcare, for like patient care, art and history. There's a lot of use cases here, like ways we could bring historical figures back, kind of like that Salvador Dali example. But it could also be used in for opportunities like in cosplay, where if you think about if you were able to create like a deep fake of yourself and you were in virtual reality, maybe you could become a famous historical character and sort of like play that out. Or you could even be like Superman for the day. Then there's a lot of interesting ways it could be used in outreach or advocacy. And so, for instance, the soccer player David Beckham gave he made a video to try to help against the awareness about spreading malaria, and he was speaking in 9 different languages. And so instead of our like typical what we're used to, where we might see a video and we might translate it from one language to another, we could actually see somebody speak in different languages and their mouth is really lining up with the words that they're speaking. And so it's really interesting to think about it in those ways. There's also a lot that could happen for accessibility, and self-expression. So when we think about like these synthetic avatars, some people with physical or mental disabilities could help use like a fake avatar to sort of express themselves more online. And then we're even seeing instances, I'm sure there's other instances out there too, where law enforcement could use deep fakes because you're able to sort of do that age progression with it. And so it could help them potentially find like missing people who may be aged, and they could, create like a replica of what this person would look like when they're older. Then there's another interesting technology that's using deepfake technology. I believe it's pronounced Cereproc, and it's a deepfake technology that's creating like a text to speech, and it's supposed to help people who have lost the ability to speech to actually be able to speak. And so it's really interesting to see how, again, this technology could be used for good and used to help people who have like disabilities and um, different uh, you know, challenges in their life to actually like be used in like a way to improve their life. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to combat these AI deepfakes when we're talking about it more in the sense of it's like trying to deceive us. There's four ways that we're going to talk about detection. We're going to talk about detection as far as like software and detection and in as much as you being able to detect deepfakes yourself. We're going to talk a little about transparency and kind of like the work that's going on there. Um, what's going on with regulation. We're going to talk about education. Again, like how to spot deepfakes, be a little bit more aware of it. And then we're going to talk about some additional best practices. So there are some deepfake detection softwares and projects that are happening. There's one that's called Sentinel, and it's a deepfake software. It's typically being used more for like government agencies, but it's a detection software that's supposed to pick up on deepfakes. There's another one called Intel Real-Time Deepfake Detector. It's using AI to try to detect deepfakes. Then OpenAI is creating a tool that's going to help detect AI generated images, particularly ones that OpenAI, like OpenAI runs DALL-E. Um, so it's sort of like they're creating their own detection software to detect things that have been created by their own tools, right? And then Meta, so this is the company that creates Facebook and Instagram. They created a deepfake detection challenge and they created a contest, try to get developers to create tools that could detect deepfake videos and other content. And the reason they're doing this is because they realize, along with other social media platforms like Twitter, that this is a problem and they need to start creating policies to kind of like crack down on this. So transparency, there are some things that are sort of being worked on for transparency. One of them is this watermark idea. And what happens is a watermark could be created on audio files or image files, and it could be read by a computer, but not visible to humans. So OpenAI is actually launching their own watermark for generated audio files. There's a tool called Synth ID and it's in beta, but it's like creating watermarks for AI content. And another thing um that's an idea of like how to combat this too is just using more metadata tags. And so what that would be is a tag that would say, this is an AI generated image or, even maybe even say like where it's originating from. Um, and metadata tags is something that's been around for a really long time and in both, programming and even in librarianship. And so it's definitely something to think about. So regulation, there's a lot going on in regulation right now, particularly legislation and developing policies to try to combat against like the deception. This is sort of like actively unfolding, but there is an act called the Protecting Consumers from Deception AI Act that was created to try to help Americans not be duped by deep fakes. There's other legislation that's trying to help Americans against like non-consensual sexual like deepfakes being created, and also trying to limit the use of deepfakes in political campaigns. And then, like I said, Facebook and Twitter are actively trying to draft policies to sort of crack down on this deepfake content. So education, there's this one website that I really like that Northeastern created. It's just called Deepfakes. But it's really fun. Basically, what you do is you go on the website. You don't have to like sign up or anything in order to use this, and it's free. And basically, what it does is it shows random images and lets users guess whether it's real or it's AI generated. Um, and it has a confidence slider, so you can actually rate if you know how confident you are in the realness. And then what it does is it tells you the answer. Excuse me. And then it tells you why. And so it's kind of a nice way to practice picking up on AI created images versus real ones. So then here are some um, characteristics to look out for in both audio, video and um, image files on how to spot a deepfake. So one of the things you can look for, and I do think that some of this just comes with practice, to be honest. If you look at somebody's face, particularly, in a video, are they blinking too much? Then are their eyebrows consistent with the rest of their face? Does their skin look airbrushed? Um, when we look at this image right here, this is a fake AI created image. And one thing I'll say right off the bat is that the lighting looks a little bit too good to be true. And so that's kind of a giveaway there. Audio, they're saying does somebody's voice match their appearance? There are things to look at for like lighting, like I mentioned, does the lighting look a little too fake? You can look for things like shadows, where they're saying, does the person's glasses, like, what's the, excuse me, what's the reflection like? Um, and then hands is a big one because AI images used to generate hands, like, would struggle with generating human hands. So you can look for the fingers and see, like, are there more than five fingers? Are the hands like missing? Just sort of like do things look weird? And then also you can look at like skin color. Is it similar to other body parts? And then the other thing I'll say though is that this isn't really foolproof because the technology is getting better and better. So it can be sort of helpful, but I think that there's deep fake content that's being created that is it's just really, really hard to detect. It looks so real. Another website though that's interesting is this one that's called In Event of Moon Disaster. It's developed by MIT, and they created a fake video of President Nixon acting like the Apollo 11 moon landing failed. And their video, it looks so real. And on their website, they also give other resources on how to spot deepfake videos and more about misinformation. And so this is a really interesting project that, for educational purposes, I really recommend. Some other additional best practices, and this is sort of like me casting a wider net and talking more about digital scams, like in general. They do recommend adopting a skeptical attitude when you're online. When in doubt, like don't trust the content is real. Then, of course, people say trust your instincts, which I know can be difficult, but that's something to consider. I always like to encourage people to just kind of slow things down because we sort of know it's scams. There's always this rush, rush, rush. It's an emergency. But if you slow things down and give your time to really decide, like, is this, like, it's really, really a good thing to slow things down. You'll be able to make better decisions if you're able to slow things down a bit. Also getting another opinion. We know that a lot of scams, kind of exist in a world where people tend to be a bit isolated. And so if are worried that something is a scam or something's fake, sometimes just getting another set of eyes on that or getting another opinion can be helpful. We also recommend just not giving out private or sensitive information to a person, like a human person, a bot, any AI tool or software. And then if you do think you're a victim of a cybercrime, there's a reporting website that FBI has. And then I included this video because I thought it was really interesting. This is a woman who was scamming a romance like scammer, and she talks a lot about the psychology behind scams, particularly digital scams, and how they work. And this is really, there's a lot of really interesting stuff in here. One of the things I remember from this that I thought was really powerful was the romance scammer on here claimed in the beginning that he was a talented singer, and at some point, when the scam artist was convinced that this woman was in love with him, she asked him to sing, and he sang and like couldn't sing at all. And so she was saying that, there's an element of scammers and scamming people where they know that it doesn't have to be perfect in order to deceive you. It's just really interesting to sort of think about those things. So some of my favorite resources for AI deepfakes, we're going to talk a little bit about that if you want to learn more. There are two articles that I really like that talk about sort of give surveys of like where the deepfake technology is and then deepfake detection, like what's going on with that. So these are the first two articles that I would recommend if you're interested in learning more about that. There's also a Reddit thread which gives a lot of deepfake examples to kind of give the latest examples. So that can be really interesting. And then there is an IBM course I really like called Impacts, Ethics, and Issues with Generative AI. And it's a free course, and they have information about deepfakes. And so I would recommend this free course. So I wanted to end with a quote. This is from Abraham Lincoln, and he says, "Never trust anything that you see on the internet." So, of course, Abraham Lincoln did not say that because Abraham Lincoln was not around during the age of the internet. But the reason I decided to put this on here was I just wanted to show everyone how easy it is to make content that seems real or seems like it's convincing, but it's deceptive, and also sort of to highlight that we are encouraging everyone to really use their their ability to kind of like think, really discern past kind of the surface level what you see and really, decide whether or not you think something is true. So thank you so much for listening today. You can always reach out to me with questions. My work email is info@webglowai.com. This has been absolutely amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed working on the series so much. And I also learn a lot from users' questions. In fact, I think, if I'm not wrong, I think this deepfakes presentation was actually influenced from users' questions. I think somebody asked a deepfakes question. So we're going to open it up for questions, and feel free to, ask me anything, and also just share some of your thoughts or perceptions about AI in general.
Great, wonderful,
Yeah.
Jennifer. We do have some questions,
Okay.
and I'm going to start with, by creating technology that detects deepfakes, could companies also be putting pressure on deepfake technology to be more realistic? Also, could people make programs that alter or remove AI watermarking?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, and I think that's why people are throwing, so for the watermark thing, people are throwing the watermarks and the metadata tags out there as an idea to try to encourage more transparency, but I think that's definitely a concern. What was the first question again?
Oh,
The first part of that.
hold on let me just go back to
Okay.
it.
I'm sorry.
By creating technology that detects deep fakes, could companies also be putting pressure on deep fake technology to be more realistic?
Yes, I mean, yeah. So there's, yeah, 100%. So there is like there's a catch 22 there for sure. And I think, I mean, another part of this is that the technology is becoming better and better. I mean, the whole thing. And so it is really tricky. And I think that that's why, in a way, people are really cautious and kind of scared about this because um it is true that by creating software, we creating ways to detect it, it could be pushing certain organizations or businesses or whatever to make it better and better. That being said, though, I think that there is definitely a need, like particularly for government agencies and, even like social media trying to crack down on it. But I definitely think it is a tricky issue, and that's why this is complex. I mean, you can kind of see like what's going on here. And we also see this just in general with scams. I mean, I feel like, we sort of, this is a part of the landscape where we educate the public. Maybe we have tools and ways to combat scam artists. I'm 100% sure that probably everyone here has been scammed in some way. I know that, just with my phone, I have gotten phone calls where somebody is, scared, oh, it's the IRS, it's this, it's that, right? And but then it always seems like, unfortunately, the scams kind of get better and better. And so then librarians are out re-educating the public again. It's the unfortunate sort of like nature of this, I think.
Yeah, so along the same lines is
Yeah.
altering watermarks. Can they also be deep faked?
Yeah, I mean, I think I imagine so. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like what counterfeit money, or I mean, it's tricky. And so again, I think that that's why the watermark idea, the meta tags, it's kind of being thrown out there as, is there a way that we could create more transparency here? But I don't think that it's one of those like foolproof tools. And yeah, I do think that there's unfortunately an ability to fake the watermark. I mean, yes, I agree. And so I think that that's one of the reasons why this is such a challenging thing.
Yeah. And so someone's asking, when an AI deepfake is used for harm, can it be traced back to the person who created it?
Yeah, so that's tricky. I mean, I would say yes and no. I mean, I think that the government does have sophisticated ways of tracing things back. There's even ways you could try to trace things back with like IP addresses and stuff. But on the other hand, we kind of know it's scams. Like if you think about scams like a virus on your computer, I don't even know if we even if we could trace it back, I don't even know if the government or people even really have the resources all the time. So that's one of the reasons why these types of presentations are so important to like educate the public because unfortunately, you know, we are scammed sometimes and we're not always able to trace it, like so I would say that it's like a yes and no there. Um,
Can AI deepfake change the wording of text messages, emails that I send?
yeah, I don't know. That is a good question. I think unfortunately though, we're in like a world where like let's say that that is not so my short answer to that is that yeah, like the swapping that we see going on, technically it's possible. I'm not 100% sure if there's a software out there right now that can actually like swap. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, but all I'm gonna say about it is if they're not, that is going to be something that's going to happen in the future because we're already seeing that kind of swapping. Like we're seeing it with the face swapping with image, and then we're also seeing this like creating the deceiving voice. So there's no reason why you couldn't do that with text. And another thing I'll say is even just using ChatGPT with creating AI text in and of itself can be really deceiving. And one thing I say to people is sometimes it's the case that AI text, you can tell it's AI generated because it sounds too perfect, or maybe it doesn't sound like it's in the correct voice of like the person sending it. But there's a lot that can be done there because you could just kind of keep regenerating it. You could run it through many different text AI generators. And so I think it's important to be on the lookout for that kind of thing too. I know we didn't talk that much about text and text being deceiving. Another thing I'll say is in general, this AI stuff can lead to deception. Like one thing I say to businesses is that yes, I do think it's important to use AI in social media to make work processes go faster and make things more efficient. But we know that people trust people, businesses trust other businesses, right? And so AI is an imitation of human work. And so there is sort of an inherent fakeness there. And so I try to encourage people like to realize that there's kind of an inherent fakeness in the AI images that you're creating and the AI text you're creating. And so in the case of social media, I would recommend to try to put more of like a personal element because you're trying to build trust, not deceive people. So even if you don't mean to deceive people, just using AI technology in and of itself can lead to deception and have like a little bit of a fakeness. But we have to remember that the content that's being created is imitating what a human person would create, but it's actually created by an AI algorithm. So a person really didn't create it in as much as they created the prompt, and then of course somebody created the algorithm, and maybe you review the content that was created, but a person actually didn't really sit down and create the text or the image like in the way that we would normally think. And so yeah, there's an ability to deceive even if you didn't mean to and you're just using AI.
Yes, so I didn't actually see this video, but someone said, do you think the video of UK's Princess Catherine revealing her cancer diagnosis was a deep fake?
Yeah, so I mean, so personally, I saw that and I my gut instinct on it was that the first video that she came out with was real, and I forget why I really thought that, but I did think it was real. I have not like done more research into that though. But the interesting thing about that is I saw a lot of images and videos and news articles that came out after that where Kate Middleton was like wearing a chemo cap and stuff. And it was so obvious to me that it was created by AI or like deep fake technology, right? So I'm not 100% sure because I haven't really looked into whether that original video was deep fake. I was hoping that it wasn't, but I definitely think that a lot of stuff that came afterwards, unfortunately, was fake. But and then again, this is an example of, I hate to say it, but this is an example of the ethical issues that are going on here because let's say that the video of Kate Middleton talking about her cancer diagnosis was indeed real. People are not trusting the news the way we used to, and that's a problem, right?
Yeah, you touched upon the
Yeah.
software that is available now to detect deepfakes in videos and images. Are there more software in development to detect deepfake recordings?
Recordings. Yeah, I mean, I imagine that there are. I think that maybe like they just haven't really hit the market or just didn't, wasn't able to find them readily enough to put them in this presentation. But I would definitely encourage you to research it. I'm sure you could probably find if it's not like 100% out yet, it's probably going to be. Um, and then again, like another thing I'll say though is that what I've noticed about some of that detection software, because we see this with entering text into the AI checkers, like the plagiarism checkers, like those kind of things, they always act like they're very accurate and they're really able to detect, and they'll say, oh, 99% accuracy. But it's almost never really the case. When they really test them, they notice that the accuracy is not that. So even those tools are not totally foolproof. So that's why it becomes, in my opinion, like people having to protect themselves and being wise and prudent online mixed with using technology to help too. It's like I feel like it needs to be like a collaboration of both because neither is totally accurate, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'd like to kind of end all of our questions with what is your advice to voters in this election year to avoid deep fake deception?
Oh my goodness. So yeah, I mean, again, I think it's that what we've already said where um that you need to kind of go into when you look at news articles online, like let's say you're on social media or whatever, you need to kind of go into it not trusting or at least being aware that it could be fake. Um, but I definitely think it's a really complex, like complicated issue. And I'm totally sure, like if you check that Reddit feed that I put on the presentation where it was like, what are the most recent deepfakes? I'm sure if you checked it during the election, we're probably going to see more and more of those like political deepfakes cropping up. I do think one good thing though is what I've noticed about online communities in the news is that if something goes viral and it is deepfake, I feel like there's a tendency for the public to be a little bit more transparent about it and like talk about it. So I'm also hoping that like social media can do a better job and like with spotting it, right? To kind of like warn people. But I mean, it's tricky. It'll be really interesting to see how it plays out for sure.
Well, thank you so much for such an informative program, Jennifer. Just want to let everyone know that we will be sending a recap that will include a link to the recording as well as we'll share the slides. Jennifer, we've really enjoyed having you present this AI series for our Cary Library.
Yeah, thank you so much, Helen. I had so much fun. I like loved every minute of it, and it was really rewarding for me to be able to do this. So thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful day.